Welcome again to our frequent podcast called Wear Many Hats, inspired by Ethan Hawkey. Throughout the year, I, David Punter, the Business Development Director for Hawkey Cleaning Support Services, shall be interviewing prominent FM and procurement subject matter experts across a range of industry market sectors. It is these people with their wealth of knowledge and experience that will inspire the next generation of young professionals. Our objective is to share our guests' stories and experiences to help motivate, engage, and inspire others into the industry. Through Wear Many Hats podcast, we hope our listeners will gain new perspectives, insights, and learn about strategies to develop their careers in the procurement FM business. It gives me great pleasure to introduce
Kuda.
And you are from?
Yeah, I'm actually based at UK Parliament, where I'm consulting. I've been there for about 4 years now.
Okay, it's great to have you here today, Kuda. And without further ado, that leads me into the first set of questions. So just to get a little bit of an understanding, Kuda, about your journey, can you tell us, for the listeners, what was your journey to enter into career in procurement?
I actually didn't decide to go into procurement. I started as a quantity surveyor.
Okay.
In fact, I had a construction management degree, so I wanted to be a project manager. And then when I came to the UK, there were more opportunities in quantity surveying. So my recruiter said, look, if you want to get a job quick, get a role as a QS. And I worked as a quantity surveyor for a number of years until 2010. That's when I started getting involved in procurement, where I worked on the Crossrail project, and I procured the first station at Crossrail.
Okay, so probably one of the largest recent construction projects in the UK.
Yes.
So originally you're from Zimbabwe,
correct,
and then you studied at university in Cape Town. You mentioned to me. So you came over to the UK in
1999.
In 1999.
Yeah, that's right.
And then started with that Crossrail project. Is that right?
No, in 99 I took a year it took me a year to get a role in QSing. It was quite difficult to break through. And my first role was actually at Balfour Beatty.
Oh, okay. Balfour Beatty.
Project management arm called Hiri International Limited, where I was an assistant QS. And then I moved there to Barhill Construction. They specialize in tunnels.
Right.
Yeah. After Barhill, I then moved to St. George for a very short time, about 8 months. They built luxury flats along the Thames, Battersea, around Battersea area.
Okay.
And then G&T, Gardner Theobald, a big consultants firm, they came calling. That's when I say my career turned around. I started doing all sorts of things, QSing stuff, cost planning, procurement, and I worked at London Olympics 2012, where I was doing quite a procurement and being a QS as well. But at Crossrail, that was my first dedicated procurement role, where I wasn't a quantity surveyor. I was I got there as a procurement manager. Okay. My focus was to procure the first station, and it was quite enjoyable. But I then got an email from Abu Dhabi and said, "Oh, we are looking for a project auditor." I was like, "Oh yeah, I've done auditing before for Gardner and Theobald," and that's when I went to the UAE for 3 years. As an auditor.
So you were based in Abu Dhabi or Dubai?
In Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, okay.
That's right. Yeah. And I actually became a qualified auditor because I like reading.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And so what is it now that you like about your procurement role?
It's my procurement role has evolved in Parliament. I started as a head of procurement. I'm a consultant at Parliament, but I started as a head of procurement. Now I'm into commercial strategy.
Okay.
I'm a very strategic person. I did an MBA at Warwick and actually specialized in strategy. So I do understand strategy intuitively. And I'm grateful at Parliament they realized my strength and they said, "Kuda, this is actually your strength." And so I see quite a lot of things, before they happen. I can plan and all that. So I've been doing this now for a year now, and we're coming up with good strategies to make sure that we are more efficient in terms of how we procure.
Okay, so you are advising Parliament to be efficient in their procurement process.
Correct. And what I enjoy most about my role is meeting stakeholders' needs and exceeding them. I just want stakeholders to be happy. It's very difficult in procurement to make stakeholders happy, but when you see a stakeholder happy, it gives me satisfaction. I always tell young people that the most important skill in procurement is not your technical knowledge, it's stakeholder management. If you get that right, everything else falls into place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So technical management, you're saying, is one of the key things.
Stakeholder management.
Stakeholder management.
That's right.
So, that moves me on to a question here, is that which skills, you mentioned one there, which skills are required to do your job?
As I said, stakeholder management is number one. Then, of course, you have to have the technical understanding. For example, in facilities management, you got to understand how things work. You have to understand what's reactive maintenance, what's planned maintenance, energy management, and you have to understand the supplier market. Who are the suppliers out there, and you have to understand what is the best way of working. Is it transactional? Is it collaborative? The approach nowadays is much more collaborative. Suppliers prefer to be collaborative with their clients. So the technical understanding is key. But also you have to understand, have legal knowledge. We work in what we call a regulated industry in the sense that there's procurement regulations where you have to treat suppliers fairly. The market likes it when they see that we are treating them fairly because they know they can bid knowing that they stand a chance. So understanding of procurement regulations is key.
And do you think the government have treated suppliers fairly in the past?
I think so. I think they've done. There's
been quite a lot of bad press on that.
I know. I know that you're going to bring that up around COVID, but you got to understand that we were going through a difficult time where we had to react. Quickly.
Were you involved in that process?
No, I wasn't, but we also intervened. Some suppliers who were struggling had to intervene, following government's advice that you got to support the suppliers. Some of our contracts had too much risk before COVID.
Yeah.
We said you manage that risk. For example, the supply chain risk, if you procure things from China or from anywhere abroad, but there were COVID risks along the way, supply chain constraints. We had to adjust some of our clauses in the contract to make sure that we don't actually necessarily pass on that risk to the contractors, or even just rising of material prices.
Do you think lessons were learned?
Lessons were learned. I think as government, parliament, and we are bureaucratic organizations, and we are not agile by our nature. And whereas COVID required us to be very agile. So some of the criticism comes from there in terms of why didn't we have clear procedures in how to quickly procure for COVID, especially COVID materials. But for Parliament, we're not involved in that, but it's the government as well, because we are separate. So
you are providing a consultancy capacity. So I think it would be unfair on our listeners if I didn't ask the question.
I know. I always get asked the question anyway.
So let's say for you, what does a typical day look like?
My day, it's interesting. No day is the same because even though my main role is strategy, I also provide advice on a different type of contracts or ways of procurement. So I can't even predict my day. Mm-hmm. Someone would come up with a very difficult question, which or an easy question, or we could end up meeting an interesting stakeholder. So my typical day, it's difficult to plan. but it's always fulfilling in the end because I tend to solve problems on the hoof. It's one of the things in my role.
But you said you're strategic as well, though.
I'm strategic as well, but in terms of the thinking, you got to be able to solve problems quickly and provide advice. It could be strategic advice as well.
Yeah.
Because I work with other heads of procurement who also be working on various strategies, and they could come up and say, right, how do we do this? And I provide them that, support.
And I want to just go back to a thing you mentioned about stakeholder management, and some of our listeners won't necessarily understand that term.
Oh, that's true.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on that? What you mean by stakeholder management as a skill that's required for your job?
Yeah, I'm sorry to use terminology that's sort of common in our industry, but stakeholders are just people.
Yeah.
People in different capacities, different departments. This could be directors for businesses, could be engineers, could be project managers. We call them internal stakeholders because they'll be based within the organization.
Yeah.
But there are some who are like companies who are outside, like, for example, suppliers, contractors. We call them external stakeholders.
Okay.
That's right.
So you have internal and external stakeholders, but then you mentioned about the management thereof of those people.
Yeah, it's managing relationships. At the end of the day, you're working with people and you got to have good relationships.
So the soft aspects of skill sets need to come into play here over and above.
It's number one.
Okay.
It is number one. I mean, if you know how to speak to people, how to deal with people, because you're going to meet people who are angry, who are not going to be happy with your service, who think that this procurement is late, this contract has to be issued by this time, and it's running late, and you got to respond to them well. You got to have very, very good relationships, and it's fulfilling when you see that even if when you're facing challenges, you're able to deal with those challenges and solve challenges for the people that you work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say to someone by way of advice if they were starting their career off in FM procurement?
I would say they need to understand what facilities management is all about.
Okay.
They need to do a research of the industry. They need to understand.
Where would they go for that research?
First of all, the first thing you do is just go on Google.
Yeah.
And say, what is facilities management? And you will see what it is all about. I mean, you search on the internet and talk to people, or go on LinkedIn, link with people who work in facilities management, talk to them about their day job, what is it that they experience. If you see contractors on Google or internet that provide facilities management, ask them what they do. So there's so many sources of information that you can go to.
Are there any sort of professional groups that they could join or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean the British Industry Facilities Management Group, BIFM, that you can join. It's
IWFM.
IWFM, that's right.
Okay.
IWFM, and they've got a wide range of resources that you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And looking now specifically at facilities management. Would you say, has the way facilities management procurement changed over the years?
Yes, it's changing. I mean, in the way that it's becoming more collaborative and less of transactional.
Is that just lip service on collaborative, or is it really collaborative?
It's real collaborative. We would like to believe that we are becoming more collaborative, but suppliers might say something different. They might feel that we need to have closer relationships. We need to plan things together.
Okay.
Because certain organizations, they might find themselves without enough capacity of resources or capability as well, skills shortage.
Yeah.
And you find that suppliers have got these skills.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I think we become more collaborative, and also.
Do you think the government have, though?
I think so, because we do recommend, there are collaborative contracts out there, like the new engineering contract.
Okay.
Recently, they've actually now have one for facilities management, and the new engineering NEC contract is a collaborative contract.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Great. And I mean, you said you were involved in the Olympics and stuff. Was that a collaborative contract?
It was, because we were using the new engineering contract. That was the one that was endorsed by government to be used, and the way we set up the contracts. We set up frameworks where we work with our contractors.
It was through LOCOG, wasn't it?
Yeah.
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 Okay. And another question that we get, I've been asking many of our guests, is with the advent of online meetings through Zoom and Teams, do you think this has affected the way strong relationships with suppliers can be fostered?
Oh, yes.
In a negative or a positive way?
Yeah, in a negative way. I think it's difficult. The one-to-one is very important. You meet suppliers, it's because meetings online tends to be formal. You've got limited time, and you end up focusing on the agenda. But having tea together,
interesting.
Yeah, having tea together is very important. You sit down and you go, or even going to the pub, and socializing and interacting with suppliers is very important. What the online meetings have done, they've removed that aspect.
Correct.
Yeah, even brainstorming sessions. Doing brainstorming online is really difficult. Sometimes you want a piece of paper that you can put on the wall, and you work with your suppliers finding solutions for your organizations.
Do you think it's taken the fun out of business?
It's taken the fun out of business. I struggled with it in the early days and said, what are we going to do? Actually, are we going to produce anything? But we are coming back now to those good old days of interacting with suppliers face to face. So we're setting up supplier engagement sessions and all that. Yeah.
But do you think Zoom and Teams and etc. those things still have a place?
Still have a place. I think technology sometimes might not replace the way we did things, but complement and improve the way we did things. So yeah, it's still very important, because now you can have long meeting suppliers all over the world, at the same time. Yeah, that's quite
unique.
Good.
Yeah, that is a real positive of it.
Yeah.
Going on to that, is that, do you think the pandemic, COVID, and the way that we now work has kept suppliers and procurers more at arm's length than before?
Yes. Because of the way technology, separates us in terms of less personal interactions.
Okay.
It has kept us, definitely at arm's length. For example, if you are talking to a supplier who is based in China or who is based in the States, you might have internet issues and all that. That might affect the quality of your conversation altogether.
And also, humour gets lost.
It gets lost. It becomes more formal.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
What is the next big thing in procurement to look out for?
The next big thing is actually artificial intelligence.
Okay.
People talking about ChatGPT, but that's not the only program. There are various programs coming out. And that's the next big thing in terms of how that's going to impact procurement. I think, AI will not take jobs away from us in procurement, but it will make our tasks easier, faster, more efficient. It will complement the way it will complement our activities, basically. Yeah.
That's an interesting viewpoint, and I think that I share that. I don't want to give my opinions to listeners here, but is that, yes, I think it can. A lot of people say it will speed up productivity of a process, and enable to get to the end goal. And things. I think it will not necessarily, people will lose jobs. I think they would just be as an enhancement to it.
I think so. And what organizations need to do is just to be ready for that, to train their staff to use all these programs that are coming through coming every day, basically.
I mean, obviously, you're involved in government procurement and consulting for them in their procurement process. Are you advising them of the benefits of AI?
Not even yet. I think AI has taken us by surprise. There is no strategy right now. Every organization should have an AI strategy, but we don't. Why? Because we are learning. We're actually understanding what it is. What's the impact?
But you're a strategic person, so maybe you're the person to have that strategy.
Exactly. I'm learning about it so that we can see how it can make it better. I mean, I use it personally on various things, and I can see where it's going to make things better. But for organizations, government, parliaments, there's a need to come up with a strategy in terms of how to deal with AI. There has to be an AI lead, and how it's going to impact the organizations. I think it's positive. The AI is really a positive development. But how do you embrace it? There are security considerations to think about.
Absolutely.
You cannot be inputting security-sensitive data on an AI program because it's going to be hosted somewhere. What about if it's hosted in an enemy state? And all that information is being harvested.
I mean, this is obviously another podcast session or something on AI alone.
That's true.
It's a massive topic, but it does seem rather strange that we're not hearing that our government in the UK has woken up as quickly to this. We are quite, in a typically English way, always slow to play catch up. And I say that as an Englishman myself, and we're always slow to play catch up on those sort of things. So
no, I think I need to defend government there.
Okay, but it's as I say, it's a topic for another discussion,
day. That's
another
right.
day. But certainly, you've touched on some interesting things there.
Yeah.
How important are equality, diversity, and inclusion issues affecting today's procurement decisions?
They're really important because they enhance your brand image.
Yeah.
They also enhance, diverse teams. They enhance productivity.
Do you think the government's still giving lip service to this? Or is it really
I can't talk on behalf of the government, but I can say that when at Parliament, it's our success story. It's a very, very diverse. We've got women in very senior positions.
Yeah.
We've got people of color in very senior positions. I mean, we've got Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister. You can see,
and our First Minister in Scotland as well.
Exactly. So they are paying. We're just talking about inclusivity, but also in terms of how we procure, we think about the social value, which is part of EDI.
Yeah.
In terms of how does our procurement affect the environment? What are the social benefits they bring to society? So we thought. We think about sustainability.
So how important are sustainability issues with a supplier that you work with?
They're very, very important. We really make sure that our supply chain they're clean, and they are taking resources from sustainable. They're using resources sustainably. They're not damaging the environment. So it's those things that we really consider, and it influences our design.
On sustainability, obviously, it covers also the due diligence in terms of sustainability, in terms of the economic sustainability as well as environmental and social. So, I'm kind of thinking, are decisions made on, a company's social standing in terms of its, modern day Slavery Act and all of those particular things as well? Are those big considerations?
Very big considerations in Parliament. Modern slavery, all of us have been trained in procurement in terms of identifying that, and we actually score suppliers on that basis. We assess suppliers. They have to satisfy modern slavery standard, to make sure that their supply chain is quite clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You obviously touched on AI and artificial intelligence and stuff, but what's the next trend in procurement that suppliers need to wake up to?
AI, but also There are also other technological advances that are coming about blockchain. Well, let's not forget blockchain, because
Blockchain, that's a new one on me.
Blockchain is increases transparency in terms of transparency of contracts, some transparency of the supply chain. Again, all these, even just data analytics, all organizations are accumulating data on a daily basis, and they need to be able to analyze that data.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So blockchain means
blockchain is,
sorry, I'm a bit simple sometimes.
No, that's right. Blockchain, it's a program which enhances you can actually put your contract, which is called smart contracts, on the blockchain. It enhances transparency. I think you've heard about Bitcoin.
Yes,
that's right. It's based on a broad blockchain program. That's
okay.
So what it does, it just enhances supply, transparency in the supply chain, which is very key. We're talking about modern slavery and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and those programs like that, they do help in terms of transparency. So, I mean, I think blockchain has been overtaken by AI, but before AI, that's the big thing that people have been talking about.
Okay,
that's right.
I will do my research on blockchain. I'm okay with AI, but blockchain, I need to. That's a new one on me. So
that's right.
Thank you for that. Now, just on a little bit of a negative, really, but what's your biggest regret in your career to date?
That I didn't go into procurement much earlier as a profession. I did procurement as a quantity surveyor, doing subcontract procurements, but not the way, I was
Didn't do it in the order you wanted to do it.
Exactly. I think I would have started the procurement from day one, because I really enjoy it, because you can influence organizations.
You can make a difference.
You make a difference. You can see the difference you make. Because, we're talking about EDI, social value. You can see the benefits that you're bringing to society in the way you procure things. Yeah.
And on that note, is that what's your greatest achievement in your career to date?
I think greatest achievement is to be where I am today. I mean, I had to work hard, and 2019, in fact, in 2014, I was working at a high-speed rail.
Okay.
As a procurement manager. And then I had a moment one day. I thought, how can I be the best in the industry? I gave myself a 5-year plan. I said, right, I want to be known in this industry. And so in 5 years, in 2019, I was appointed head of procurement. I did my first consulting for the World Bank. I used to write reports on an annual basis on how UK procurement is working, getting published, and then going into conferences and things like that. But this was planned. I had to work hard, sleepless nights, learn a lot. So my achievement is to be where I am, and I aim higher. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been over in the UK for quite some time, since 1999.
Yeah.
Where would you say then we are UK on the ranking in terms of procurement? Where do we stand?
I think we are leading, because we got SIPS. SIPS is the body.
So we're leading above other Western nations?
Oh, definitely. You know why? Because, I've traveled around the world, and they talk about the SIPS qualification is everywhere.
But who's the top nation in procurement then?
UK. I'm biased.
Are you just saying that?
Oh no, I think it's because I've traveled around the world and people want it. Maybe it's because mainly I've traveled in Africa as well. Most African countries, they say they want to do SIPS because it's the standard. It's a gold standard in procurement. And I've seen adverts in America for American jobs saying that either have SIPS or their qualification has forgotten the name.
Okay.
Yeah, they recognize SIPS. It's
okay. Well, that's a real flag-waving moment for the UK. Thank you for that. And it's just interesting to know, obviously being a subject matter expert in your field, to see where you see the UK.
Yeah.
What things in life, it could be work, it could be leisure, that give you the greatest satisfaction and enjoyment?
Traveling. I enjoy traveling.
Clearly.
Oh, yes. So, I've been to Niagara Falls and Victoria Falls in a year, just to compare the falls. So, which one is big. It's exciting.
I've only been to the one, so I've been to the Victoria Falls, but not the other one. But I'm sure they're both equally as beautiful.
Equally as beautiful and fascinating. I enjoy traveling around the world. Yeah.
Okay, and where's your next destination?
I've not been to East Asia, like Malaysia, Thailand, and I definitely want to go.
I thoroughly recommend it.
Yes,
they might have a need for your procurement expertise, I'm sure.
Oh, all right. Is it? I'm looking forward to the food.
It's an interesting market. Well, that's the end of our 12th episode of Wear Many Hats podcast. We hope our listeners have found this also an interesting listen, as I have. We'd like to thank Kuda for taking the chair today. It's been both thought-provoking and engaging. Thank you very much for coming. And we welcome our listeners' feedback later when this is published. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you. Thanks to you.